let's have a look, before we bring Isabel back in. We had a pretty spicy PMQs, as one would imagine. We deserved one, didn't we? So shall we have a little look at what some of the bigwigs of politics have been saying? First of all, let's hear from the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer.
Labour Party to victory in a general election. I'm one of them. She talks about numbers. Remember, Mr. Speaker, 5 ministers, 7 secretaries, 16 housing secretaries, all completely useless. And this Prime Minister is clearing up the mess. She comes here every week, desperately fighting to save our dying party. I'm fighting to change our country. Inflation down. Waiting lists down. Child poverty down. The number of Tory MPs.
Isabel, what is that analogy of the people who come out of the forest or the jungle and they're still fighting, thinking the war's going on? I don't know, like watching those two in PMQs with Starmer pointing out all the failures of the Conservative Party and him saying, you know, she's fighting to save her dying party. And I was thinking, you're fighting to save yours, my friend. I mean, it's just, you know, it's incredulous that when you think of how politics is looking right now in polling, etc., neither of them are even in the game.
I mean, he wasn't wrong, was he, about Kemi Badenoch fighting to save her dying party? She is. I mean, she's fighting to save the Tory party. He was able to humiliate her because she kept asking him what's changed. She quoted him saying words to the effect of in the past, I will never, you know, hang my advisors out to dry. You know, if somebody who works for me does something wrong, I'll be carrying the can for that. And she was like, what's changed? And he was able to throw stuff right back at her. And for example, citing that she said not that long ago, I guarantee there's not going to be any more defections from the Tory party. And then within 24 hours, 48 hours, there were two absolutely mega ones. So what you've got there is two very damaged party leaders who are absolutely it's existential for both of them, actually. Kemi Badenoch is in a more solid position as leader of the Tory party than she was a few months ago, that's for sure, but her party isn't.
Absolutely not. Remind me, when is cut-off day for defections? Because I remember Farage saying something on the lines of, you've all got until such and such a time to come over. After that, the drawbridge is pulled up. And I can't remember the date he said.
I believe that the date he set was just ahead of the May elections. I'm never sure if it would be totally rigid, but that's just my speculation. You kind of would have thought, let's say, Kemi Badenoch herself wanted to defect. How would that be handled? Actually, I can answer that question. They wouldn't want her.
No. I think that's very clear, that she'll be the last one to start. Maybe Jacob will be there as well because he's so loyal. You know, maybe it'll just be Kemi and Jacob. Who knows? Let's talk about blimmin' Rachel Reeves. She's going to make a speech at LSE. She's made a speech at LSE this afternoon. Kel Surprise, a Fabian Society creation of a university, that one. And she has been basically saying that we need to, well, we keep hearing about reset the relationship with the EU, but she basically just wants to get back in the EU. She's said the government will only align with EU regulations when it's in Britain's national interest. I'd like to remind Rachel Reeves that at one point, people from her party were joining in with the calls from the EU saying that's cherry picking. So it's funny, isn't it, that all of a sudden they're trying to pull the wool over our eyes. It's not kidding anybody that they're not going to betray the Brexit vote. They're just going to betray the Brexit vote.
I mean, this has been bubbling for quite a while, hasn't it? And, you know, you sort of feel that they're a bit like a dog that hasn't been to the beach before, just contemplating the sea, kind of slightly paddling in as the waves come in a little bit and running back out again, then going a little bit further in as he realizes he's not going to immediately be engulfed by the waves. And each time they don't completely drown, they keep going a little bit further in. And that's how it feels. with the Labour Party and the Parliamentary Party in particular, their sort of flirtation, their experimental dipping of the toe in the water as to just how far they can push this. I mean, we're not stupid, folks. 17.4 million people voted for Brexit. I don't believe that 17.4 million people are having deep regrets. Many of them will regret that it hasn't been implemented properly, but I don't think that many of them today would say actually they'd vote differently. And so I think there'll be all hell to pay if that is betrayed. You know, we're coming up to 10 years. It's extraordinary to think in a few months' time, it will be the 10-year anniversary of the referendum. I can't believe that. It's just gone. I mean, you could sort of say it's gone quickly, but so much has happened, hasn't it, in that interim? And yet here we are, immigration is worse than ever, mass uncontrolled immigration, and we haven't used the Brexit possibilities, but at least we have the framework to do so.
No, exactly. I'm really looking forward to Brexit being implemented. But the thing is, some of the things that this government seems to be talking to the EU about with a view to potentially signing us up to them. And of course, the legacy media aren't talking about these things. They're not outlining them. They're not talking about how dangerous they are, how egregious they are. One is this newfangled weapons pact, where they're like, right, we've all got to sell each other weapons and all stockpile our weapons, and we can sell them to Ukraine. And, you know, they just don't want anyone doing anything individually. But they said to the UK, if you want to be part of this, when we actually have some of the coolest weapons, right? We are good at weapons. If you want to be part of this, you've got to pay. You've got to pay money to be part of it. And all of your weapons manufacturers have to use European components. It's like, great. So they now want to ruin our weapons industry, which is pretty vital in a period of geopolitical instability. The youth movement scheme, which is supposed to be, you know, unfettered travel for the under 30s, which will be, you know, 500,000 newly regulated migrants in Spain coming over here, no doubt, paying to go back into Erasmus. When the EU are now rolling out the red carpet from students from, oh, that's right, North Africa and the Middle East to join Erasmus. The Labour Party are basically signing up to demilitarise the UK and allowing even more Lord knows who from Lord knows where, and not only that, to make us pay billions for it.
Yeah, I mean, sort of in theory, I like the idea of the youth mobility scheme, but we all know that it will be horrendously abused. What we need right now is not more mobility, but less mobility. I mean, it's really as if anyone is taking any notice of any limits that we put on in the UK in any case. I just don't think that bringing in youth mobility has anything other than trouble written all over it. And I would respect such ideas more if this government had the remotest control over our borders. And we need to get serious, not just about who's coming in, but also the manner in which people are leaving. You know, what we've got is just sort of unfettered toing and froing from the UK as if it's a borderless country. That is not how sensible administrations and nations run their affairs. You need to be able to know both who is coming in and who's going out.
I couldn't agree more. Let's go back, dip back into Prime Minister's questions earlier and have a little listen to Kemi Badenoch.
How dare he criticise us? We want the ones stuffing government with hypocrites and paedophile apologists.
Well, it's always great to hear the word paedophile apologist at Prime Minister's questions. I mean, she has got a point, though, and it's funny, isn't it? Because the left wing have been so good at name-calling for so long. Nazi, fascist, Putin apologist, racist, that actually, you know, I kind of don't blame her for using such direct terminology.
Well, it's also true, isn't it? You know, Exhibit 1 is not actually Mandelson and Epstein. Exhibit 1 is the grooming gangs.
Yes.
You know, the Labour Party is absolutely up to its neck in that. Labour councillors and other Labour figures all up to their necks in that. Not all of them, of course. But But I think it was Ed Davey, actually, the leader of the Liberal Democrats. Remember him, everybody? Quite hard to think who he is. But anyway, that was the guy that spent the general election campaign cavorting around on hobby horses and in water parks. He actually did quite a good intervention in Prime Minister's questions today, pointing out that it's unfortunate. It's not just unfortunate to employ one paedophile sympathiser. That is an appalling thing in itself. And then you've got the situation where the Prime Minister has just given a peerage to another one that was campaigning to support another paedophile. I mean, I think we're all sick of hearing the words paedophile in relation to our politicians. Can we just not have politicians that are friends with paedophiles, maybe?
Is that too much to ask, you would think?